Okay, today we're going to be working on a 2005. It's a Honda Civic. A lot of Hondas are all similar to this here, so it's not just the Civic that looks like this. A lot of other cars are done similar to this. We're going to be changing the back brakes today because they're down to the point where they need to be replaced. First thing we're going to do is, remember we talked about, we're going to clean off all of that debris inside here first. So you just spray it off, make sure you have a bucket underneath to catch it. You're going to make a little bit of a mess. Spray everything down real good with the cleaner and get all of this brake dust off of here. Alright. What I always do, because you're going to run into this problem, you're going to be working on it, and you're going to notice that this wheel cylinder is going to pop apart. As it sits there, these pieces of the cylinder are going to push out. What I always do is always pinch off the brake line very lightly. You can use vice grips and make a special tool for it, but you don't really need it. Just pinch off the line very lightly, enough to stop the fluid from flowing through, but not enough to cause damage to the line itself. All right, so now we know that that cylinder is not going to slowly pop out. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove these springs here. They make a whole bunch of different special tools for it, so whatever works for you. The way I usually do it is I use two different tools, three tools actually. Needle nose pliers to get the springs out that you can't get your fingers into. Cutting pliers, which is just to hold the spring and pull the spring out. You can use needle nose too, but I always use cutting pliers because it holds it a little tighter to pull the springs out. Because when you try to pull it and you have needle nose pliers on it, a lot of times you can get it out, but it slides off. So I work with these here. That's it. So we show you how to do it. What I always do first is take off the spring for the self-adjuster. Relocate this. If you're changing a spring kit, fine. If you're not, we're going to reuse it. We're going to remove that little lever that was on there, that was holding that self-adjuster in place. We're going to relocate that. We're going to need to use that again too. Take a pair of pliers, grab your spring, and just push it to the front of the car, and you can pull it out at the same time. Let's try the back one. The back one did come out a lot easier. I'll show you what I did. Just grab it with the pliers right here, like this, and you're basically just pulling the spring to get it to pull out, and you have to take this piece out of that opening right there. All right, so now, if you remember how it goes, fine. If not, lay it down so you put it back on the same way. It's very important that this spring goes back on the exact way that it came off. It cannot go on this way because it'll interfere with the self-adjuster in the back there. So it came off this way, it has to go back on that way. All right? Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take these clips off right here to hold it in place. You basically just use a screwdriver. You take the screwdriver and you push on the clip, push it down. You hold your hand around the back and you keep that pin. The pin looks like a nail with a flat end on it. You just keep it from pushing back through the plate. You hold it here and you put this through at the same time and push down on this, and you rotate the nail or pin in the back of it to to remove it, and I'll show you what that looks like. If you're going to reuse these, fine. If you're going to replace them, that's fine too. But basically what it is, it's a nail, and this piece here goes through there like that, and it turns sideways, and it keeps it from popping out. All right? I'm going to take that and relocate that. We're going to take this brake shoe, take it off like this. You have a spring down the bottom. Unhook that spring. Just turn it sideways and pull it right off. Now we know we're going to put that shoe back on with a new shoe. We're going to replace this spring here. Watch how you took it off. It came around this way here. You put it back on that way. Same thing over here. Now we're going to take this self-adjuster out. Remember how you took it out? You have different sizes in the back right here. The longer one is the one that faces outside to you. Then we're going to turn this all the way in, This one doesn't matter, it's the same. And we're going to turn this all the way back in so that we can accommodate the new shoes. All right, then lay this down. We're going to need to reuse that also. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to push that in here, and we're going to take that other spring out the same way that we took the previous one out. You push it in, you rotate it from the back, you rotate that pin or the nail that's in the back there so that it can come out here. And then we just relocate that to the side. Take this here, you take it off the car, you rotate it sideways, and what we're going to do is we're going to unhook the parking brake from right here. You push it forward like this, push the spring forward, and it comes right out just like that. Right? And it comes right out. Now remember, you took it off like this, so this is the way you're going to put it back on. Now, that's one way you can do it. I don't usually do it like that because you could take this over to the bench now and you could take this off right here. What I normally do, and I'll show you, is just leave this connected onto the car. You don't need to remove. You don't need to remove this from the car. You can leave it hanging just this way it is. We need to take that clip right there and open it up and remove it from the car. So you can take a screwdriver and you can just pry this clip open right here. Take off the U-shaped clip and you take out the washer, and now we're going to replace it. Okay, what you want to do is with the new shoe you want to make sure that everything lines up, all the holes line up properly, and in this case they do. Alright, make sure the pad surface is the same, and then we're just going to take this piece out and we're going to put it right back in to this one, the new one, and we're going to put it back through here. We're going to put a washer on that was previously on there, and then we're going to install the U-shaped clip that we just took off, and you can do that with a pair of pliers too. Once you have the U-shaped clip onto here like that, you grab a pair of pliers and you just squeeze it until it goes down where it previously came off. And once it's down as far as it can go, you hold it in with your thumb, you take a pair of either needle nose pliers or regular pliers, whatever works for you, and you get in there and you squeeze it closed so that it won't reopen. Now you squeezed it closed. Now before we go any further, we're going to lubricate everything so that it turns the way it's supposed to and slides just as supposed to also. Alright, what we're going to do is I always do this myself, is take this off right here and squeeze the wheel cylinder back in with your hands. Makes it a little easier later on for you. Then replace your pliers on the line, keeps it from pushing out all the way. Then what you need to do is you need to lubricate the backing plate wherever the brake shoe touches. You want to lubricate everything, including where it mounts onto the bottom here. Same thing on here. Okay. Once you have it lubricated, then what you do is you take your shoe, you rotate it, put it back up where it previously came out. Make sure your spring for your parking brake cable is up on top of that bracket that it came off of. Put your shoe in place. Put your pin through the back. And what you're going to do is you take your clip that you previously took off, you put it on there like this, take your screwdriver and you push it back in, and you rotate that pin in the back. I'm going to show you how that pin is supposed to line up. See how it's turned sideways to the opening? The opening is straight up and down, and the pin turns sideways. It keeps it from moving. All right, make sure your brake pad is in your caliper. I'm sorry, not your caliper. When you see the wheel cylinder, you see that slot in the wheel cylinder right here? Make sure your brake pad lines up in there as this one does. All right? Okay, next thing we're going to do is you have your adjuster. Put your adjuster back in the way that you took it out. You grab your new shoe now. All right? You take your spring that you previously took out from the bottom here. Put it back in the way you took it out. Hook your brake pad onto it like that, and then you rotate it and you bring it up like this, and you push the adjuster up very slightly so that the adjuster fits into the groove on the brake shoe. And you're going to put your pin back through this side here. And we're going to do the same thing that we did on the other side. Put our spring on here like this. You're going to push your spring in as far as you can. And put your pin back through there. Okay, now make sure your adjuster is all the way in the way it's supposed to be. We're just going to let these push in a little again. That's where it belongs. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to reinstall that longer spring. Remember the one that we took out? We're putting it back in the same way that it came out. Hook it up in the front, pull it down to the bottom here, take your pliers. Again, you're just holding it, you're not pulling it real tight because you don't want to cut through the spring. And you take it and you put it back where it previously came out of in the same hole, right? Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put back our self-adjuster that we previously took out. It was in that hole, so we're going to put it right back in that hole again. And remember that this piece here fits up against the adjuster. So put it in there, and you just slide it back until you feel it pop in. And it goes right back in the way it came out, where the lever is behind the self-adjuster. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to put our spring back in. Hook your spring back in where it came out. And then we're going to pull our spring down, and we're going to put it back through. Sorry if I'm blocking you. Grab your spring with your pliers, pull it down, and hook it back in. All right, and you'll take your pliers off the line. And if you did everything right, you should have no leftover parts, and everything should have gone together the way it's supposed to. Let me just recap a couple of very important things to you here. You want to make sure your springs are in all the way where they're supposed to be. Make sure these pins are turned sideways to the opening of the hole. Make sure this spring is down underneath that little tab right there that holds it in place. Your wheel cylinders are lined up in the slot the way it's supposed to. And last, you want to make sure that your self-adjuster is where it belongs, which it is. And here we have the self-adjuster lever right behind the adjuster as it's supposed to. Now after you've got the whole thing back together, you need to adjust the brakes once you put it on. There is an adjustment slot in the back, all the way back. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it back here, but there is a slot down right here that you can take out, and you get in there with a screwdriver to adjust it, or a tool to adjust it. The problem is, as you can see, there's a lot of stuff in the way here. You can't get in there to make a good adjustment on this. So I'm going to show you the way that I do the adjustment on it, and it's the way you can do it also. All right. Now, just for the record too, I did resurface the drum. I would recommend you get it resurfaced also. If you can't do it, have a machine shop or a auto supply store cut it for you. Or if you change them, you have to have a good surface to make a good adjustment. All right, get the drum back on, and you'll see that the drum doesn't fit. And the reason for that is because this just has to be adjusted just slightly up and down to accommodate the drum. Now you see it goes on nice and smooth. Fold the drum face against it and turn it. You can see it's pretty free and it turns quite a bit. Take the drum back off the car. And then you come in here with the screwdriver, and you can adjust the star adjuster right through this opening right here. And you can just turn it, and you'll be able to adjust the brakes. And you'll hear it clicking. Just do it a little bit, a couple of turns. Maybe you'll get the adjuster out, maybe one, maybe two revolutions. And once you have it out a little bit, you take your drum again, and you put your drum on, and you see, now is it any tighter? Just a little bit, but it still needs to be adjusted. You can see by the movement of the drum it needs, to be adjusted. And you just continue with that, adjusting it. I don't see too well, but just keep adjusting it until now they do sell a special tool for this to adjust it, but if you do it this way here, you won't need to purchase any special tools or rent anything. It's the same thing. It's a caliper that goes on the outside here, measures the distance of the shoes here, and then it measures the drum, and you adjust it according to that. But you could do it this way here is fine. All right, put it back on again, and we can feel it get a little bit stronger. Put it on, turn it, still spins. And what you should have drag on. You should be able to get it to rotate one revolution before it stops. See, it's much better now. You should be able to get one revolution out of it without it really dragging, and that's how it should be adjusted. All right. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.